Hey everyone, welcome back to the Daily Raid, and with spring ball wrapping up, it's time to take stock and look back at what we've learned about the Badgers so far in spring practice and look forward to some questions that we are going to have going into fall camp. So let's get into it. So when I previewed the spring practices a few weeks ago, I based my preview on questions that I am looking to get answered, or I was looking to get answered throughout these spring practices. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of those questions now and see what kind of answers the Badgers gave us. And the first one that I want to go through is simple, coming off of the major change in the offensive philosophy from the air raid to the NFL-style offensive Jeff Grimes, is how is the offensive playbook being built? You know, I speculated earlier this spring that we would be looking at an offense that was going to be different, but instead of an offense that's being built on more plays, we were going to have an offense that was built on more ways, in which we're keeping the scheme relatively simple, but we're going to have multiple ways to do it with different personnel packages, and me hitting my camera, different personnel packages and different formations, etc. And I think what we got is a little bit of both. We got both different ways, and we've gotten more plays. And I think what the offense is really trying to do now is create answers for the offensive players pre-snap, as in the past, the answers would come more post-snap. Now, we're still going to have post-snap answers on plays. And what I mean is reactions to how the defense reacts to the ball. Play action, RPO, package plays, etc. Concepts that are staples in modern football will continue with the current Badgers offense. But where the previous offense, both in the running passing game, was highly reliant on reads, whether it be leverage reads in the passing game or zone reads in the running game, this offense is going to give more answers post-snap. We're going to be working on scheming players open instead of them having to find their space in the defense. The run game, where we are going to create gaps. It's still zone-based. I mean, the wide zone is still zone offense, but there's less thinking involved when you get to that gap, and a little bit more simplistic in that kind of idea. So that is going to, in turn, obviously give our players more that they have to learn, more they have to execute. And I think we heard that in spring ball, where the players talking about how much they had to learn, straight off from the first walkthrough, and how that can affect execution at times. Because when you're learning a lot of new things, and especially in spring ball where you are installing an offense and then reinstalling it, but when you have more to install and a limited amount of time to do so, you're going to have less time to actually work on the finer points. And I think that's why you see the ebbs and the flows of the offense this spring, with the kind of the steady pace of the growth of the run game and the kind of up and down of the passing game, kind of building on what is fitting the players at the time, and how some things are harder to learn than others. Some things take time, some things take repetition. And when you're in a situation like this where there is limited time, you're not going to necessarily get all of the answers that you're looking for. So the offense is being built on the backs of more options for the players, both pre-snap and post-snap. And we're going to try to present offensive football in many different ways, whether it be by formation or by personnel package or by motion, etc. So I think we've learned a lot about the offense only in the little bit that we've heard, and the even less that we've seen. We've still learned a lot. Next question I wanted to have answered is, how is the receiver rotation changed? How is the use of the wide receiver changed this spring? Now, again, we haven't seen much in terms of what they're actually doing, but I think we have our clear pecking order in the 2 set receiver spots that is going to give you an indication of how that rotation is going to be used and how those players are going to be used going forward. I think the 3 top outside receivers have presented themselves: Jaden Ballard and Vinny Anthony. Vinny Anthony being your returning starter from last year, Jaden Ballard being the transfer from Ohio State. The speed on the outside, the ability to get over the top is noticeable. Their use also in the run game has been interesting to hear about. Chris Brooks, as per usual, is having a solid spring. Luckily, this time he has started solid and stayed healthy enough to complete spring. I know he's had it, I believe, last 2 springs where he started strong and then got injured. So I think that's your solid 3 receiver rotation there at the outside spots. You have a couple of those guys, I think, in Chris Brooks and Jaden Ballard, have inside-out versatility, and that they could be used in a slot situation in a 12 personnel set without having to substitute in the slot or substitute anybody out. So that's good to see. I think where a lot of the growth in the depth at receiver has happened, it has been at the slot receiver with Tretch getting hurt. I think for a brief period this offseason, when Tretch did transfer or put his name in the transfer portal, that they had already been looking ahead to how the offense would look without him. And with him going down again, it gave the coaching staff a chance to actually implement that change. And I think it's been to the Badgers' offense's benefit. We've heard a lot about Tyrell Henry picking up the slack, and especially Eugene Hilton Jr., who I think is going to get a lot of reps once we get to fall camp, because he has not only natural playmaking ability, but inside-out versatility. They're using him all over the field, and again, another play that's being used in the run game as well. And with the players as talented as him, he can't sit on the bench. He's not going to be a development piece. I don't care. I just talked about 5 other receivers other than him. He has to play. He has to feel like he has a role, or he will transfer. And it sucks to even think about something like that, but that's how college football is these days. Everyone's on a 1-year contract. It'd be the same in the professionals level if every player was on a 1-year contract and had the ability to leave in free agency every year. But I think they are finding a role for Eugene Hilton where he can be a playmaker, and where maybe his total reps might be lower, but his impact will be high enough that he is going to feel like he is contributing to the offense enough that he wants to grow going to next year, because obviously Jaden Ballard and Vinny Anthony and I believe Tyrell Henry are all graduating, and Chris Brooks. So there's going to be a lot of reps available next season. Give him enough of a taste this year that he's going to be able to get in. So I think we have a solid top 6 receiving group right there, with the 3 on the outside, 3 on the inside. I think also, like Tyrell Henry and Eugene Hilton, have that inside-out versatility. So there is going to be the ability to use them in different personnel packages, where sometimes they're going to be on the outside in a 12 personnel, sometimes they're going to be on the inside, and moving players all over the field. And that's something that was different, obviously, than the air raid, where your outside receivers basically stayed on the same sides all the time. Slot receivers moved around a little bit. These 6 receivers are going to move around and are going to be utilized in different ways, in ways to make the offense more dynamic, but also just giving us better opportunity to get the ball in playmakers' hands. I think there will be some role players. I think Joseph Griffin is going to end up being a red zone jump ball type of guy, because obviously Vinny Anthony is a little bit smaller. Tretch, Tyrell Henry, and Eugene Hilton are all a little bit on the smaller side. Joseph Griffin, a big, strong, boundary, quote-unquote, wide receiver that I think is going to have the opportunity to get the ball in the red zone and in short yardage situations to go up and get balls. Kyan Barry Johnson has made plays. He's another player that I think is going to really show some value in the run game and as a direct backup to Tretch. And he is going to be looked at to get that kind of play set that Tretch has been getting before he got injured. But I'm hoping he's taking advantage of the fact that Tretch has been out and be able to move up the depth chart after starting his college career a little bit in the doghouse. So the receiver group, it's a lot of the same guys we've been hearing about for the last 2 years with the transfer and obviously with the freshmen added on top of it. But it's funny that we're going to be switching to a more run-based offense this year, and yet I think the receivers are going to be one of the stronger position groups on the team and are going to have the ability to help balance out what is most likely going to be a run-heavy offense. All right, next up, this question changed big time, or the answer to this question changed big time about, a week ago when Tanner Koziol decided that he didn't want to play grown-ass man football and decided to transfer to Houston. Say about that what you will. And the question was, what is the role of the number 2 tight end, and how are the current players going to be utilized in that role? Well, everything changes now. I was thinking previously that Koziol was going to be your every down tight end, and everyone else was going to be situational behind him as either a direct backup like Tucker Ashcraft, as a secondary inline tight end, or a guy like Jackson Aker would be situational as your fullback, H-back, wing-back, whatever type guy. But Koziol was going to be your every down type of guy. I think that's going to change now. I think there's going to be an every down tight end spot, that Y tight end, the inline tight end. And I think Tucker Ashcraft is going to man that spot a lot more, and he'll be the starter. But Grant Steck is going to get reps with the ones in that inline tight end spot just based on body size and his ability to get down the seam. And they're going to have tight end 1 is going to be a by committee job to replace the reps that Tanner Koziol was going to get, especially in the passing game. And that in turn is going to change how the number 2 tight end is going to be used. And I think I wouldn't put money on it, but I'm very much serious with this. I think Jackson Aker at the end of the day is going to get more reps on the field for the offense than any of the other tight ends, because he's a fullback and he has versatility that, and I know everyone's saying, it's his third role in 3 years. Not really. He came here as a fullback. He played some tailback. He became a fullback again. He's a fullback again. They call him a tight end. I was one little thing that I wish the offense would, or Coach Grimes and Coach Fickle would have done to appease the sweater vest, is to just list Jackson Aker as a fullback on the roster. But I think they're listing him as a tight end because he's more than a fullback. Regardless, we're going to see him lined up in line as a fullback. We're going to see him lined up as a wing. He's going to be in the backfield and taking handoffs. Heck, he scored the first touchdown in the spring showcase. He's going to be in the backfield in 2 back sets. He's going to be used a lot because he has versatility that Grimes wants in that position. So in terms of the room, he's going to get the most reps. So what does that mean for everybody else? Tucker Ashcraft is, if he continues to grow how he has starting as a true freshman to where he is now, I think he's going to be a very solid tight end. He is going to be your very solid Badger tight end the unsung hero type. For every Jake Ferguson, we had Jacob Peterson and Martinelli and all these role player type guys who would make plays when we needed them to. I think that's where Tucker Ashcraft is going to be. Grant Steck is going to be right there behind him, and I think they're going to be poised to be a great 1-2 combination going into Ashcraft's senior year next year. JT Seagreaves, I think he's going to be your third blocking tight end. All four of them are going to get looks. Jackson McGowan's going to get looks. They're going to try to bring in another tight end in the portal for depth, but it's talent. It's a talented room, and I think it's just going to come down to a by committee kind of attitude, and the role of the tight end is going to shift a little bit now that there is not going to be a true every down tight end. All right, next up, let's talk about the running backs. And the question going into spring ball was what the running back rotation was going to look like. And if you would have asked me this question a couple weeks ago, in fact, I talked about it in my update to spring ball video a few weeks ago, I would have said that Darian Dupree and Cade Yakimelli were going to get the majority of the reps and everyone else was going to fall into line behind that. Well, obviously, the rotation has shifted as Dilin Jones has really solidified himself as the lead back. I'm not going to say feature back yet because he's still young, but his skill set really fits what Jeff Grimes is looking for in a running back, in that he has a downhill mentality with enough athletic ability to push the defense laterally and then put his foot in the ground and get downhill. And that is something in the wide zone that is really important, and he has shown that. He's taken advantage of the fact that Darian Dupree was a little bit dinged up here the last few practices, didn't play in the spring showcase. And so it's really looking that 1-2 combo of Darian Dupree and Cade Yakimelli is going to be more of a 1-2 combo with Dilin Jones and Darian Dupree, with Cade Yakimelli finding his way in to some reps after that. And how the actual rotation is going to come out of that, I don't know. But given what Grimes is looking for and with how it's going to fit with the quarterbacks that we have, they're going to want to control the clock. They're going to want to grind, and a guy like Jones is going to be the guy who's going to do that. That being said, Darian Dupree is a perfect complement because what Dilin Jones lacks in the passing game and the more dynamic aspects of the running back position, Darian Dupree makes up for and would be a perfect complement. Cade Yakimelli is going to be Cade Yakimelli. He's another guy that I think, obviously skill set wise, fits the first and second down aspects of the Jeff Grimes offense. We saw it with his big run in the showcase. Obviously, everyone took that as an opportunity to say that, well, it must be because the defense is bad. We as Badger fans can't have nice things, can we? Anyways, Cade Yakimelli is going to be a good reserve for Dilin Jones in the first and second down areas. He's going to be a core special teams guy, and he is going to get on the field a lot more than he did last year. Let's see how he runs when he's running up against first team defenses. A lot of his stats, his yards per carry is slightly inflated because he had some big runs in some garbage time situations. But he is a solid player who's going to get reps. So it's going to be, those three are going to get the majority of the reps. Everyone else is going to be filling in the gaps behind. Obviously, the quarterbacks are going to be a part of this run game. The receivers, we've been hearing a lot about the receivers being involved in the run game. That could be just more installation thing than anything of an actual game plan idea. But the nice thing is we're going to have an offense where it's not just one guy. we might have a feature, a lead running back, but he is not going to be the sole focus of the offense, and everything else is going to be set aside. It's going to be maybe the lead back will be the feature of the offense, but everyone around him will be a complement to complete a balanced offense. And I'm really excited to see our running back room. It's young. Outside of K.D. Akinmele, it's a young room that could set us up pretty nicely for the future if their youth and the negative aspects of their youth doesn't rear its ugly head this season once it gets into crunch time, especially once we get deep into Big Ten play. All right, so next up, let's talk about the quarterback rotation. And I was curious to see, given our, I guess, propensity to have quarterbacks get injured the last few years, how has the quarterback's reps been divided behind Billy Edwards Jr. to maybe prepare our other quarterbacks to get reps if they need to in the season? I think it's been obvious that Billy is the starter. He was brought in to be the starter. He has not done anything to get that role taken away from him. Danny O'Neil has really stepped up and is pushing himself to be in line to play if Billy Edwards gets hurt. Obviously, that's why he was brought in. He was brought in as a young but experienced backup with the knowledge that he wasn't going to get reps this season. But what I really like about what he has done so far this spring, and he's had a very solid spring, he's played within his abilities, he's played within his frame, and he's made plays. And that is going to push Carter Smith to catch up fast, because he may only be a year younger than Danny O'Neil, but Danny O'Neil has a huge advantage in terms of how to be a college quarterback. And throughout spring ball, we have gotten glimpses of Carter Smith's athletic ability. His arm strength has wowed people, anyone who's seen it. But as we've also seen, he makes rookie mistakes. The good thing about Danny O'Neil for him is he had to learn from those rookie mistakes in the fire of actually playing last season. So I think that's going to be good for the room in terms of competition. It's going to help Carter Smith grow faster. It's going to help Danny O'Neil be in position to be a leader next season. And it's also going to, I think, give the coaching staff, Kenny Guyton, a little bit of a sense of relief that if, God forbid, it happens again and we lose another quarterback, that Danny O'Neil will be in position to lead the offense if necessary. Dovetailing on the quarterback rotation, let's talk about the offensive system. And is the system fitting the quarterbacks, or are they being asked to fit the system? And I think there's two ways we can kind of look at this. We're looking at the general philosophy of the offense. And I think it's pretty clear that it is going to be predicated on ball control and maintaining drives, slowing the game down a little bit. We've had 2 seasons of no huddle, fast-paced offense. Grimes is going to slow things down. Now, that adds some pressure to the offense, because when you slow things down, that means you have to be more efficient, and you have to score more often because you're going to have less opportunities throughout the course of a game. But bringing things back to quote-unquote Wisconsin football, the good aspects of Wisconsin football where they can maintain drives and grind clock and control the tempo of games, because when an offense is working consistently, that's going to put pressure on the opposing offense to match and go beyond what their opponents are doing. So if our offense is maintaining long drives, controlling the clock, that's going to force opposing offenses to actually have to score faster to keep pace, because you're going to end up running out of time. So the offense is based around the ball control, the running game, and we've been hearing a lot of how the quarterbacks are working off of that run game, whether it be, you could see it in the clips we've seen, a lot of play action, a lot of rollouts, bootlegs out of the pocket in the running game, getting involved with, obviously, the zone read, getting pitch relationship with the receivers. They are an integral part of the offensive system, but they are not being asked to lead the system, and in terms of the entire system is going through them. I think the entire offensive system this time is going through the running game, and it's building outwards from the running game. Last season, in the whole air raid experiment at Wisconsin, the offense was based around QB play, and when we got bad QB play, we obviously know what happened. Now when we're having an offense built around the running game, but being dynamic enough to involve the entire offense, that is the makings of a more balanced system, but a system that can take advantage of what the defense gives us. We're always saying that. And that's going to take advantage of what the quarterbacks that we have. Meaning, if we build the system around a solid running game, it doesn't really matter as much who the quarterback is, as long as he can execute his part to get eyes out of the box and to help the run game. So I think the offense is being built around the philosophy of run control, which makes it quarterback friendly, but they're going to continue to push the quarterbacks to get better because this is still a quote-unquote NFL-style offense. We're going to want to push the ball downfield. And if the quarterbacks can't take the upper half off of the defense, then it's going to put pressure on the run game to run through bigger boxes, to be able to push the defensive sideline to sideline more than they're already currently doing. So the quarterbacks play an important role in the overall philosophy of the offense, but I think we're going to be in a situation this year where adequate QB play is going to go a long way. Last season, adequate QB play would not be enough. We needed good QB play. Now we need essentially old school Wisconsin QB play. Hopefully we can be above the Hornibrook line. I think asking for 150 yards and a touchdown is not going to be not going to result in a lot of success in the new Big Ten, but the modern equivalent of what the Hornibrook line would be, I think our quarterbacks can get to. I think they can maintain that level, and by doing so, they're going to create balance within the offense that is going to help the system as a whole and help the playmakers around them contribute more to the offense. All right, and the last thing I want to talk about with the offense is, of course, the motion. We have been hearing so much about Coach Grimes' use of motion this spring. We saw it in the film coming from Kansas. And so the question I wanted, what was the purpose and the benefit of the motion that Coach Grimes is using, and what was it adding to the offense? Well, in the past, when Paul Chryst used motion, he did quite a lot. It tapered off over the last couple of years. A lot of times it was used to gain a last minute or last second change in leverage and strength, catching defenses slightly off balance in terms of how they present to the offensive front, and to gain a little bit of an advantage. That's what motion is. What Coach Grimes' approach to motion is, it adds a dynamic to the offense. Because at the end of the day, good defenses, all they see motion is what the formation is going to end up at the end. So what I mean by, if you're in a 2x2 formation, you send a motion from one side of the formation to the other, all you're really doing is moving from a 2x2 to a 3x1 formation. And I try to emphasize to my defenses, don't worry so much about the eye candy. Worry about what's going to happen when the ball's snapped and where he's going to be when the ball's snapped. And for a lot of offenses, that is the be-all, end-all with motion. With Coach Grimes, though, you're just seeing so much more, use of that guy in motion and having him turn into a ball carrier. Having the shift and the motion not only create imbalance in the defense, but then giving it additional eye candy with you first go from a shift to a motion and you're causing the defense to not be thinking about where the ball is going to end up or where the formation is going to end up. You're just giving them a lot to look at. And when you're giving them a lot to look at, they can lose the ball. They can lose the guy who's going to get the ball because they have to see everything. And with the way this motion is being used in this offense, it's really going to add to our ability to get the ball in playmakers' hands. And that is the be-all, end-all with offensive football, is to get the ball in playmakers' hands and let them do the work. And motion and shifts in this offense is more than beyond just gaining leverage. It's about adding dynamics. It's about getting the ball to our playmakers with added leverage and then using that added leverage to give eye candy to the defense and give it some misdirection. It's dynamic, it's fun, it's modern, and it's old school at the same time. I think you're going to get, hopefully, Badger fans who are willing to have an open mind and maybe be slightly more positive about Wisconsin football are going to see the real positive aspects of this change to the offense and to make it more fun to watch. All right, so enough about the offense. Let's start talking about the defense. And the first question that we had was how playing against this new offense is affecting the defense. And obviously, we haven't seen much of our offense versus our defense. We haven't seen much film at all from this spring, other than, a couple highlights here and there. But what I think playing against an offense like this in practice really does to benefit the defense is it's giving the coaching staff day-to-day glimpse at an offense or schemes or plays that they are going to see week in and week out. And it is going to make the coaching staff think, because when you get a situation where it's offense versus defense, there's competition. And the defensive coaches want to beat the offensive coaches as much as the offensive coaches want to beat the defensive coaches. So in a sense, the defensive staff is scheming against its own offense. And it is giving them a glimpse of where football is going, but where the defense has to evolve to keep up with the changes in offense. Back in the day, you could see it where the Badgers' defense was strongest against opposing offenses counterparts to the best parts of the Wisconsin offense, i.e. the run game. And they struggled against teams that could do what the Badgers couldn't do offensively, and that was passing the ball. We saw it the last couple of years when the air raid was here, that our defense was a lot stronger against modern spread offenses. And they had struggled against bigger, more pro-style defenses. Now we're going to have an offense that is both modern and fast and multiple, but has that pro sensibility. So the defense has to play a little bit of both. And it's really driving the growth and the expansion and the idea of becoming more multiple in the defensive system. So playing against our own defense is having a very positive effect, I'm sure, behind the scenes in the formation and the growth of the new defensive system. Which, of course, leads to the big question that I was curious about before spring is, what is the new base defense? What is the new base structure? And I think the easiest way we can put it is the base structure is going to be a multiple defense. It is going to be a defense that can adjust to whatever the offense they're playing against is going to give them, but more importantly, it's going to be able to adjust in the situations. A lot of times, the last couple of years, and going back beyond that, is we had a defense that just tried to put their best 11 on the field, and sometimes that best 11 didn't match up against offense that we were playing against. Now they are really working on building a defense that can put the best 11 on the field based on the opponent and the situation, and getting more people involved. You're hearing a lot of the younger players getting more involved. Obviously, a lot of the transfers getting involved. And you're seeing this multiple defense come to be. Now, we have to put numbers involved to this. Is it a 3-3? Is it a 4-3? Is it a 3-4? I think what we're really getting is, just based on what I'm hearing and based on the little glimpses that I'm seeing, is we're getting the old school Ohio State 4-3 defense being run with either 3-3 or 3-4 or at times 2-4 personnel. So you're getting interior defensive linemen, you're getting edge players, you're getting inside backers, and you're getting true outside linebackers, off the ball outside linebackers. And you're playing you're playing a defensive structure in the 4-3 that is strong against pro-style running teams, power run teams, etc. But you're using the versatility of the players and the different personnel packages to be able to match up speed for speed and player for player with teams that are going to play wider, they're going to play faster, they're going to play more tempo. It's a multiple defense, and it's the way that modern defenses are going. Obviously, you look at Jim Knowles, who was the defensive coordinator at Ohio State. Look at Ohio State's defense last year. Look at every game and how much the defense changes week to week and play to play, and how many different looks they were able to get. That's what we need to do this year so we can be balanced and stronger, not only against the heavy run teams that we struggled with last year, but everybody total. So the new defense is going to be, it's not going to be a little bit of everything. You know, it's not a throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. It is going to be a multiple system that has pieces that can move in and out based on formation and based on situation to be actively counteractive to what the offense is showing. And with this new multiple system, what the role of the linebacker is going to be is obviously going to change, because now there is a third linebacker group in that linebacker room. So you not only have your true inside linebackers, we have our stand-up edge outside linebackers who are being joined by the edge outside defensive end D lineman in a more edge role instead of just outside linebacker. And then you have your star linebackers, which are your either hybrid inside backer, outside backer types, hybrid outside backer safety types, more in tune with your traditional outside linebacker in a 4-3 defense, whether it be your boundary will linebacker who's got a little bit more heft to them and is playing more B-gap to the boundary, or you have your Sam outside linebacker, or they call the star in this system, where they're playing from the edge to the sideline. They're covering a lot of space. They're the type of guy who can come up, put their hand on the ground as a secondary pass rusher, etc. A real hybrid type player. And I think we have some players who can fill that role as well. And again, it's going to get more players involved. And we're hearing not only the transfers, but younger guys getting in and contributing in different roles. And it's going to make the defense better. You know, it's going to be a situation where You don't have to be the best at everything right away. You could be a situational player. It's a way that guys like Nicholas Clayton are going to get playing time because they're good at one aspect of their role right away, and it can only build from there. Which, of course, builds on to the next question is how is the defense creating pressure? Well, I think we're hearing 3 different ways that is happening so far. Obviously, they brought in defensive linemen who can actually pass rush. This was a fault in the offense, or excuse me, the defense. I keep mixing those two up for some reason. It's been a fault of the defense forever, is with the exception of Keanu Benton. We never really had defensive linemen who could pass rush. They were block occupiers so the edge outside linebackers could rush. It's how it has been here for a decade. But now we are getting interior offensive linemen or defensive linemen like Javier Suggs, Charles Perkins, guys who can occupy A to the C gap and give interior pressure. On top of that, you're getting bigger, longer, stronger 5-tech defensive ends like a Corey Walker, like a Michael Gardner, who can line up on the edge, be stout against the run, but have the ability to get pressure, where we don't have to bring in a smaller linebacker in non-passing situations and can still get rushed when the pass does come, because pass comes on every play now. So we're getting pass rush from actual true defensive linemen. That's a huge boost. We're getting pressure from the situational players who are coming in. Sebastian Cheeks and like the aforementioned Nicholas Clayton. On top of our normal edge players. Which adds when you can then bump those pass rushing defensive linemen in. You have players who can create pressure at now all spots across the front 7. And then when you're changing the alignment of some of those linebackers, you are creating new angles for pass rush and for run rush, blitzing, stunting, whatever. The defense is becoming more dynamic. And I think also with the going back to more of a 4-3-ish kind of mentality, even though we're using 3-3 personnel, you might see the return of the match cover 4, keep everything in front of you type coverage, which is going to give you way more angles to be able to set a rush with all the players who are playing underneath, because you're going to have 7 players underneath that could get into a pressure situation. All right, and the last question I want to go through here is just kind of an overall thing that I was curious about, and is how is the staff going to balance playing time and development of younger players in the era of NIL and the transfer portal, where players are essentially on 1-year contracts and they have the ability to take off as soon as they don't feel like they are being utilized the way that they want to. It is what it is. And it's going to happen and we've seen it not only with our players transferring, but transfers coming in and then leaving. They're coming in the winter window and leaving in the spring window. And it's not just a Wisconsin thing. It is happening all over the place where players are leaving mid-cycle or mid-season because they don't feel like their role is what they thought it was going to be. I think so far, one, we have heard a lot of young players' names this spring. Eugene Hilton, Nicholas Clayton, Carter Smith, a lot of offensive linemen like Hardy Watts getting reps. And we're hearing the young defensive players, Amelia Agard, Kyra Skanes. The list goes on. The young guys are getting quality reps now because you have to show these players that they are appreciated, they are valuable, and that they can be used. to keep them in the program, but more importantly, to push them to play sooner rather than later. You get a young player in early and you create a star, so to speak, and you have a program behind it that's going to want to keep them involved, then you're set for the next couple of years, assuming that you can keep him on campus. So I think they've done a nice job of getting young guys in. We've been hearing a lot of names, and we're hearing a lot of names of those young guys playing and making plays, which is all that they want to do. They want to make money, make plays. And the coaching staff is trying to take care of what they can take care of, and everything else is going to be for other people to worry about. So I think there's been a good balance, and I think this is just how college football is these days, where you've got high school recruiting, you've got the portal, and you've got in between that. It's never stopping. And it's not a Wisconsin thing. It is a college football thing. So that's just how it's going to be. All right, so that's a last look at spring ball. We didn't learn a lot, but we learned enough that at least some of the fans out there who are willing to see the team for what it is and are maybe less pessimistic about everything in terms of Wisconsin football, that they are going to come away satisfied that the team has made a step forward in the right direction. There are going to be fans out there that no matter what happens, there's always something negative to say. And to those people, I say, go touch grass and find something in your life that you enjoy to maybe make you less miserable, because obviously Wisconsin football is only there to be a source of misery for you. I think it's time to find something else. So now we're going to be getting into the end stages of official visits, etc., for recruiting, and we're going to start thinking about fall camp. And fall camp can't come soon enough, because there comes a time where just reading Twitter all day and trying to create news out of nothing gets to be a little tedious. And we all want to watch film. We want to watch players play football. So hopefully between now and fall camp, we get some more opportunities to do so. All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.